Okay, what's up, everybody? My name is Adam. I'm here with Toby, the owner of NEPA Builders. I am not a team member, full transparency, of NEPA Builders, so we have a special one for you today. What I'm gonna do is, just because I might be the guy behind the lens, but I am not a NEPA employee, I'm not obligated to say all sorts of good stuff about them, even though I like them and I like Toby a lot. I'm going to ask some of the hard-hitting questions that a lot of you would be asking, because in this format of a video, I'm the closest thing to a medium of a customer that you're going to see. So I'm going to ask Toby some unbiased questions. We're going to get his honest, raw answers and just see where it goes. So hope you like this one and enjoy. So Toby, if you could just briefly, to anyone who hasn't seen you before, if you could just briefly introduce yourself and NEPA Builders and just what you guys do and what you've done.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Toby with NEPA Builders. I'm the owner. And we're a construction company. We usually help our clients, people that are in need of renovations or building a new home. And we have many different services such as major renovations, new home construction, and exteriors like roofing and siding and decking and windows. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But NEPA Builders has been in existence for about 13 years now, and we have about 25 employees. We're located here in Blakely in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Okay, cool. So we have talked about this in other videos before, where you answered frequently asked questions. Some of those were pretty hard hitting too, but I kind of want to get right to the crux of it. And this is something that I've been learning a lot lately when working with people like yourself is, people that are watching this, they don't want to hear necessarily how great we are or you are, because, they know that every company that's legitimate, reputable, has testimonials, and they have good stuff about them out there. And you guys have no shortage of that whatsoever. But what a lot of people want to know is how, if things go sideways, how bad is it going to be for me as the customer? So could you speak to that? Because mistakes happen, you've talked about that. What could people expect? Worst case scenario in any project with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we could give examples of really what that looks like as well. But I think at the end of the day, the easiest way to answer that question is we'd never run away from a problem. There's integrity is something that's super important. And there's things that we cause on our own, mistakes that we make. And there's things that sometimes weather causes, and, things happen there too. And either way, we're dedicated to making sure that we solve it. And, something that we tell all of our people is, work on this house as if it's your grandmother's house. Like, if you experienced a problem with your grandmother and on her project, would you just leave the problem to her? Of course you wouldn't. So there's times where we've replaced roofs, and all of a sudden a freak storm comes and you can't get the tarp up there quick enough and water gets inside. And it's that's a pretty tragic thing, right? There's an emergency there kind of, and it stinks for everybody, and we're cleaning up water, and sometimes we're painting something and drying things out, and those are kind of the worst case scenario examples. And other times, sometimes we just put it in and it looks good, and you walk away and come back and it's like, man, that doesn't really look that good. And so whether we realize it or a client realizes it, at the end of the day, we're wanting to make sure that it's what's making you happy. So we stand behind it, we fix it, and we make it right.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you guys have been in business for 12, 13 years now, you said. So incidents happen, nothing's perfect. And you always talk about that construction process being like a marriage. Could you just kind of speak to what that means? Do people actually have to get married to you?
Yeah,
Toby,
yeah. If you're not putting a ring on my finger, it's not going to work out. No, it's just like dating. It's like if you get married, you're really trying to make sure that this is the right person. And so just like a builder-client relationship, it really should be the same. We should be putting a lot of emphasis on, is this a good match, right? You might date somebody a couple times, but you're not going to marry them if it's not a good match. So there's a process of finding out and discovering if this is a good match, and there's a multiple ways of doing that. But that's why we call it a marriage, and that's why how we relate it to a marriage is we want to make sure that we take the time up front to know that this is a good match, because it's going to be difficult. Times throughout the construction process are going to be challenging. They're going to be frustrating. They're going to be fun, and you're going to laugh, and you might even cry, right? So it's important. My wife and I have the kind of compatibility that when, we struggle and we laugh, we cry, we figure out a way to get through it. Why? Because it's a good relationship, because we knew that this was something worth doing for obviously a long-term relationship. So that's why we call it related to a marriage. And that's why it's really important, because especially for people that haven't done a construction project before, they may not realize that this is a huge investment and that it's going to be very stressful. It's important that the contractor and the client relationship is a match.
Okay, so you guys, your name is NEPA Builders, and you're home builders, by trade, right? So you guys have so many different divisions, and there's something that makes you a little bit unique in the sense that like you offer all these different services, but how can you actually be good at all of those things without being like the jack of all trades, master of none in that process? Because there's so much that goes into what you guys do.
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's not easy. It takes a lot of specialization. What I mean is there's multiple different divisions. There's 2 divisions in the company, dedicated staff members to each one of those divisions. So we're not having the same guy that sets our cabinets, do your deck boards or do your shingles and vice versa, right? So that means there's separate project consultants. There's separate project managers, carpentry staff that are specialized and trained in specifically only what they do. And that is obviously, especially in today's world with the difficulty of labor, it's not easy to do. It takes a long time to put these teams of people together and trust them and know that what they do is quality and put them in the right places. And it takes time to just learn what is he really good at, and how do I set that person up or that team of people to only do that all the time and not try to make them do things that they're just not comfortable doing? So that's where I guess we're a little bit more dynamic, is that we don't just rely on subcontractor trades to do all of those things. We have that control in-house. We could train them. We can improve what they're doing. We can get them tools and equipment. We could suggest, industry standards and things of that nature that really makes them able to do all of those different services that we provide. And it's not just a jack of all trades thing or, this subcontractor pulling out of a hat, sending them out to job sites. So we've put a lot of emphasis and a lot of investment into people and our company. So, having the office and having a place of business is a major investment. It's like roots in the ground, right? And it's the same thing for the staff that we have that's very dedicated and as well as specializes. That's roots in the ground. They invest a lot of their time in NEPA Builders and for our clients, and we invest a lot into them. So I really do think that's a big differentiator for us, is having those different people and divisions.
Could you, and for people who don't know, could you actually just explain what the divisions of the company actually are?
Yeah, so it's really 2. So break it down into 2. So construction and exteriors, we call it. Right. So the construction division, they're just mainly doing renovations and new home construction. So new home construction speaks for itself. Renovations could be basement renovations, kitchen renovations, an addition, or gutting an entire home and redoing the entire thing. So that's like the construction division. And then exteriors is roofing, siding, decking, and windows. Both divisions have employees. Both divisions have subcontractor support, and they kind of share the same office staff. So same building, same office staff, but 2 different divisions of people doing 2 kind of totally different services. Now, you build a new house, there's going to be a deck on it. So exterior guys might come over and do the deck on a construction project. There's as much, cohesive team, membership there as much as a lot of times are just completely separate doing their own individual services.
Makes sense. Okay. Now, some of the work that we've done, we brought up like customer stories, and we had 2 sort of opposite videos recently. One of them being a story where you were well into a project with a customer and you just knew that it wasn't a fit at a certain point, and you guys sort of amicably broke off that relationship like you talk about. And then you talked about a story where you knew it was a good fit right from the beginning and it was really fun. So for anybody listening, when they hear good fit, and like if they're not sure, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
How does that look?
Yeah, I think, I'll try to summarize that as best as I can. We have core values, and there's things that we believe in, value system. People that work for us here, they have families, they take their kids to baseball. They are baseball coaches. They're, football or dance, right? All of these things. Work is not their only thing. They're not there to just work and serve. We had a client that wanted to build a really, really nice house. It was going to be a $2 million home, and it was on a brand new development on a new lake. And, we probably could have built that house and then have been there for a long time because we were kind of the first builder in there. So there was a lot of reasons to justify being on that project. And we got to a place where, one day he was trying to get a hold of me, and it was after hours. I was at baseball practice. My son was in Little League at that point, and he tried to call me a few times and I couldn't answer. And the next day that we spoke, what I got was, hey, I expect that when I call you, that you answer. And I kind of politely said, I understand. Sorry, I was at my kid's Little League game. And the response I got was, I don't care about your kid's Little League. When I'm a business owner too, he said, and when my clients call me, I answer. And I said, well, I appreciate that and I respect your business, but at the same time, I think I just realized that this is just not going to work. There's just what's important to me doesn't seem like it's what's important to you. And I think, before we go any farther, it's probably better that you find a builder and that we find a client that takes those things into consideration that we do. And so, some things are important to people and not to others. And that's okay, right? That's okay that he built that home and it's probably beautiful. And for their family, it's probably great. But we would have spent 18 months together and it would have potentially been, a complete misalignment, right?
Sure. Sure.
And so the other side, we had a project that was a log cabin addition in the Poconos. It was really cool. We met a couple times, and the mason that was coming to the meetings with us, the subcontractor, we bring them to the pre-construction meetings to help develop the scope. He was coming, and he would mention in one of the sit-down meetings that he was about to have a baby. He was about to have a boy. And so the wife of the couple was just listening and, going on about just family stuff. It was a good conversation all around. And then we came back a couple weeks later to deliver a proposal, and she literally had sewn a baby blanket for the mason. Like, didn't buy one at Target, which would have been awesome. She literally made it by hand. And so, like, those are two huge main, like, different things there, right? Like, somebody that doesn't care about my kid at Little League and versus somebody that's willing to make me a baby blanket. Like, clearly there's alignment with that person. And so, we can't be the right person for everybody, and we can't build everybody's home. And we don't want to. We want to work with the people that are in alignment with us on core values and we can treat right, and they can, appreciate that, and they can treat us right, and we can appreciate them as well.
Yeah. And to be fair to people listening to this who, aren't familiar with you and aren't familiar with the company, it's not like you're saying that you want your clients to like coddle you and that you won't own up to mistakes and that you guys won't be available and go the extra mile. But it's more so about, hey, this project is so long, depending on what it is, but a lot of these projects are so long that you have to understand who we are as a company, just like we understand who you and your family are and what you guys want. Yeah, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You got it right.
And there's just one thing there that I wanted to touch on with you, and it's that at the beginning of your answer to that last question, you were explaining like, hey, like who we are as a company, aside from our core values and the way we do things, is that we're regular people that live in this community in NEPA, and that we have kids that go to baseball practice and we're involved. And could you talk about what that means and why you think that's important to people watching to know that?
When people are coming into your house, I think you have to be able to trust them, right? They're not just like a carpenter looking to come in and hammer out some nails and get out of there, right? So they likely to treat your house the same way they would treat their own house, because they go walk in your living room and they say the same video games laying there that their kids are playing, and they draw the relationship, and they're gonna treat your home just like their home, right? So I think that's why, that's an important thing for people to understand is like, I'm so fortunate, and I think all of us in the company are, I think they would all say that we get to work around just some of the best people that I've ever met in my entire life, take their shirt off, the whole 9 yards. They'd go to the edge of the cliff and over it for their kids. And, I think that speaks volumes to somebody that wants to like invite you into your house. You're at work, right? We're in your home. You're at work for 8 hours. You need to be able to trust that person's like in there doing a good job and, looking out for you and your family. So it's, I think that's why that's such an important thing.
Yeah, I think so too. So one of the last things that I wanted to ask you and get into was like on that note of community involvement. You guys do some community give back programs. What is that all about? What's the purpose? Why do you do it? And what actually are you doing every year?
Yeah, I think it really ties into our core values and really our purpose. And for us, work has meaning. It's more meaning than just the hammers and the nails. Like, we're trying to really make a difference and make an impact. It's our tagline is building a better Northeast, and we're trying to just everything that we're trying to do, we're trying to make it better. And construction is one of the ways that we build our community better. Of course, it is, but we also believe that corporations have a responsibility to their community to support it, right? Because like the community supports us, right? So it has to go together. So a couple things that we do is we do the Raise the Roof program, and that's a free roof that we give away every year to a family in need. And we have people go on our website and they nominate. You kind of walk outside and see family members or neighbors who are in having hard times and need their roof replaced and they can't otherwise afford it. And so out of all the nominations, we replace one roof for free a year to a family member that in our community that needs it. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's like we know it's just like it's our mark. It's one small thing that we could do to make a very big difference to that person. Maybe it barely scratches the surface of the whole community, but it makes a huge difference to that person and their life and all their family members' lives. And it means a lot to the guys and the gals that are in our company. We all go. We're tearing shingles off. We're carrying shingles to a dumpster. We're talking to the family. It's an amazing moment, right? But that's what I'm talking about when I mean meaning. Like there's meaning and purpose to that. Like it's more than just building things. Like it's building the community. And we do an athlete scholarship giveaway in the spring, and so we're trying to highlight an athlete that is really good in the classroom, really good in sports. They're a leader, and they have a lot of community involvement themselves. So they give their time away however it is that they do it. But we're looking for like that young person coming up, going into secondary education that is otherwise going to be this community person just like us, can use some help. And it's not a lot of money. It's $2,500, but it's something to say to them, you've worked hard, you've got a great GPA, you've carried your team, and you've done great in the community. This is maybe one of the first rewards that you get to see. This is one of the first ways that hard work pays off, right? And so I think it's so important to, develop and support the youth in our community and make sure that they get a good pat on the back when they're heading on to that secondary education. And, when it's trades related, if they're coming into the trades, like we need to support community members wherever they are in their journey. And some young people are just crazy, so inspiring. So it's another thing that's meaningful for us. We get to, my wife and I do that together. We get all the nominations, we sit down and we watch all the videos. It's crazy, just like the accolades that some of these kids have. It's a difficult thing really to do, is to choose one of them. But her and I go through them and we find the one that is usually obviously somehow above and beyond the others, and then we come in and then we surprise them with it. So it gives us a break between just 90-degree weather up on roofs or freezing cold and framing something outside to let's take a shift and do something that we can build our community with and have some meaning and purpose to our life. So it's awesome, and everybody here loves it. And it's a passion of ours.
Yeah, that's really cool. So last thing, for anybody who's on the fence about maybe having you guys do a project, whether that's exteriors or just a new home build, what would you say to them and want to hear, and what do you think they would need to hear?
Yeah, if they were wondering whether or not they should hire us or somebody else, I would say, somebody else may be better, or somebody else might do as quality of work as we do. I think when you're comparing the craft, you should be getting the same level of quality. Like that's the standard, right? So first, we're making sure of that. So if we're hiring our company, what sets us apart? I really think it's the team members that we have and the reasons why we do what we do. And it also speaks to the integrity, we're human, we're going to make mistakes. And because we have these core values and these great people, they're going to fix them. And make no mistake about it, in construction, mistakes will be made. And that will be with the best people that have the best quality. It's just, do I trust that this person, all these several different people, that they're all going to have that same level of integrity? Or do I really believe that one is going to have it more than the others because I could see what they do in their business and in their personal lives that tells me, without me having to tell them like I'm doing now, what speaks for that without words? Like that's what I would look for. And I think that's what separates us and makes us different.
And to any skeptics out there, like, you guys are going to be around, right? Like you're still in a couple of years, you'll still be here.
Yeah, we want to be here for 100 years. Clearly, that's well beyond me. But we have roots in the ground, right? Like we have our office is on Route 6 in Blakely. We've put a large investment into that place. We're always investing in more equipment and more facility and things of that nature. And that means that there's intention to be here, right? There's intention to support our current clients. There's intention to support the community. And the best thing for me, as I at some point veer off and I no longer do this, that somebody can take this with the same passion and vision and let it be this pillar in the community that does great work but also supports people, whether that be thing that we're doing for their family in their kitchen or giving a couple roofs away a year, sometimes some years, hopefully in the future. So we plan to be here forever. And there's our kids. My son is going to school for architecture. Hopefully he comes into the company, and a lot of our kids that are sons of some of the carpenters, they're getting to the high school age and they want to come and work here. So we look forward to that. That would be the best case scenario, that our kids can come into this and take it and be here for the community.
Yeah, that's cool. And to anybody watching, where could they find you? How would they go about getting in contact with you if they are interested in a project?
Sure. Yeah, the easiest way is just to visit our website. So NEPAbuilders.com. You'll find all the services that we provide on there, information. There's a lot of frequently asked questions done by this guy right here. He's amazing. But the website, or call us, either way, we'll get back to you. And or you could stop into the office. We're on Route 6 in Blakely. And, Kim is awesome. She's always right there by the door and a very welcoming face, and be happy to talk to you about your project.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Toby.
All right, buddy. Thanks.